Okay, hey up, Sofa Squad. We're live with my brother Tom, and we haven't done this for a while, have we?
No, it's been a while.
Yeah, we were planning to do a review of Clint Eastwood movie Coogan's Bluff, um, but due to yes, one circumstance after another, we haven't got around to doing that one. Um, we are going to do it, but for now, we're going to be reviewing cult horror classic "Taste the Blood of Dracula," starring Christopher Lee.
We are indeed.
So, Tom, I believe you've got some notes.
Yeah, as always. Yeah, I guess I should run through what it's about. It's 1970. It's one of the classic Hammer horror Christopher Lee Dracula films. I think they made about 6, maybe even 7 in total. I think this is probably about. I don't actually know the sequence. I think this might be like the 4th or 5th Christopher Lee Dracula film. And
Okay.
I think the first time I watched it was with you. And I remember this because I think I mentioned this on a previous chat that we had. You know, when I was very young, I think I was either in primary school or early secondary school. I used to go to bed. I had to go to bed on a Friday night. I can't remember what time, but quite early. And then I'd force myself not to sleep, and then I'd come down and after my parents had gone to bed, and then
Yeah.
and then we'd watch films, wouldn't we? Because like Channel 4, very late at night. Every Friday night it was usually like a Hammer horror double bill, wasn't it? It was like 2 films back to back, and we used to start and watch them, and they were fantastic. And this is one of the films we watched. I mean, actually, I've never asked you. You hadn't watched that before either, had you?
No, I hadn't.
Taste of Blood. Yeah. So it was just a new experience, and it's a really good film. I think it has flaws. I think you kind of laugh at it, but there's also a lot of creepy stuff going on there.
Yeah.
And I haven't. I should have. I've got my notes from watching. I should probably do some more research. Maybe I'll look up a bit later while we're chatting. It follows on from another Dracula film. At the end of this one, he gets stabbed through the heart, and he sort of dies. Well, he's dying in the middle of the forest in Transylvania. But the start of this film, it just starts in the back of a horse-drawn carriage going through, I guess, around near Transylvania, that kind of yeah, and or in Transylvania, and a man is in it. He's kind of a sort of a wheeler dealer kind of bloke, isn't he? Like he's like a salesman kind of thing, like a traveling salesman, and he gets he gets into a silly argument with these strange fellow passengers in the back of the carriage.
As you do.
And they kick him out. so he's sort of like stranded in the middle of these Transylvania woods, and he's going around the woods, and he starts to hear sort of like agonized, screaming, whatever. And he stumbles across the dying Dracula. Christopher Lee's there with I think it's like a crucifix, a very large crucifix that's been driven through his heart. I can't remember which film. I think I have seen that film that ends that way, but I can't remember. Anyway, Dracula dies right there, and his body sort of, I don't know, dissolves and into just this big sort of pile, this big sort of like spatter of blood on this big rock, and then the blood turns into sort of red powder.
Okay.
And then I think he says something like Dracula's blood or something like that, and then the title comes up, Taste the Blood of Dracula, and it's got what Eddie Izzard called the oh my god music, dun 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 dun, oh my god,
Yes.
But I love. I think it's really good music. I do. anyway, yeah. So that's the start of it. Well, I'll go through the. I'll give you like a very quick synopsis, then we'll go through it in depth. You know,
Yeah.
what happens is there's this. Actually, it's pretty hard to go through that quickly. We cut after that. We cut to back in England, a rural village. It's a church and all that, and there are three sort of respectable, village gentlemen, well-off, English gentlemen, and one of them is called Hargood, who's a very good actor. Actually, what's his name? I'll just look up quick because he's actually a very good actor. I think he's Jeffrey Keane is his name.
That's right.
And,
yeah. And Peter Sallis is in this film as well.
Yeah, Peter Sallis plays Paxton, who's well, I'll explain in a minute. And then the other English gentleman is Secker, played by another good actor. So the actors in the Hammer horror films are always very good, I thought. Anyway, the upshot is that there's these three sort of respectable gentlemen. Oh, sorry, Jeffrey Keane, by the way, he always played like they used to call him the minister, I guess the Minister of Defence or something. In a lot of the Bond films, wasn't he? He'd turn up like M would say, "Oh, you've met the minister. Hello, Bond." So he was in a lot of Bond films. This guy. Anyway, the three gentlemen are sort of hypocrites. Perhaps the biggest hypocrite is Hargood himself. Like, he seems to be like the sort of alpha male of the group, doesn't he?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Because he basically they're all in church at the start of the film, and they're all coming out of church, and Hargood berates his daughter Alice for sort of like flirting with this young man called Paul, who's Paxton's son, and he sort of says, "You've been acting like a harlot in God's house," and yeah, and then but then it emerges that I think he pretends in front of his daughter and wife that he doesn't know Paxton, doesn't he? He sort of acts like he doesn't know him, and then but there's a scene that's quite funny and important. Like his wife, Hargood's wife, he's just told his daughter off, and Hargood's wife says, "Oh, are you staying in? The chef cooked a lovely ham." He's like, "No, you know, it's the last Friday of the month. It's the last Sunday of the month." And she goes, "Oh, of course, it's when you do your charity work in the East End." and then it cuts to him, and he's in a carriage picking up Paxton from his house. So he sort of like says to his wife, I don't know, I can't remember how it's communicated, but he pretends not to know them very well, does he? And then the carriage, picks up Secker, the other bloke, and they go to the East End, and it turns out they call their little gang, the three of them, the Circle, and basically they just go out whoring in the East End. So they're complete hypocrites, I think it's either Victorian or early Edwardian era, isn't it? It's very like horse and carriage, and they go to a brothel and they drink. I think two of them tip a bit of laudanum in their drinks. I noticed. I think it's laudanum or some kind of narcotic. And they've both got their prostitutes on their laps, watching this exotic dancer dance with a snake and all that. And then this young fellow comes in, and he sort of clicks his fingers, and then Hargood's companion for the evening, let's say, so just walks up to him and then leaves with this bloke, and they ask the sort of, I guess you'd call him a male madam, the bloke who runs the whorehouse. He's a sort of pimp, isn't he? But he's not. He's a very sort of he's more like, he reminds me of he's more like a bordello madam, isn't he? Because he's he's very feminine. He's not like a pimp in the kind of sense that you think. But yeah, they ask him who was that young whippersnapper kind of thing, And he said, "Oh, that was young Courtly, who's the son of Lord Courtly, who was sort of disowned by his family because he was caught practicing black mass in the family chapel." And he says the girls, because he's got no source of income, so the girls support him. They all give him money and stuff because they're fascinated with him and all this. And they leave the place, and not Paxton, Hargood sort of sees young Courtly, and he says, "Courtly," and he says, "Come, let us buy you supper." And they have a conversation, and I think it's because they're sort of interested because they know that he's been practicing black mass. And then Courtly guesses right when they're talking. He says, "So let me guess. You have a sort of appetite for the, the more, I don't know how you describe it, the more illicit pleasures in life. Let's say that. And but now you're bored to death of it all. And you're looking for a worldly person like me to suggest alternatives." I think that's how he puts it. And then he comes straight out of it. How would you feel about selling your souls to the devil? Which is a bit of a leap, but they all sort of say, "Yeah, but what would that mean exactly?" Yeah. And I think he suggests that you can live for much longer and you can indulge in more. They never get into what's in it for them, really, apart from there's some sort of vague notion that they could enjoy some, exquisite satanic pleasures or something like that, And so he says, "Yeah, but you've got to. It's going to cost you money. You're going to have to buy something for me." And they go to the shop, this shop, and the bloke who owns the shop is the same bloke who we see at the start of the film. Who sees Dracula die, and he says, we need to buy these relics if we're to perform the ceremony I told you about. And he asks, so I'll just check my notes. What's the price? It's pretty steep, as I remember. 100 guineas, he says, but they all agree to pay this extortionate amount. And the relics are his Dracula's cloak, it's like a brooch or something, or signet ring or something like that, and something else, some sort of necklace thing, and of course this vial of this red powder, which is Dracula's blood. And he needs and Courtly, you can tell Courtly has been waiting for this for a long time, because he probably has never had the money to buy this to buy Dracula's blood. And he finds three people who are willing to pay for that, and there's a really good line. The bloke who the wheeler dealer, the salesman, he says, "And may the devil take good care of you," when he gives him his chest. It's quite that's a really good line, I think.
Yeah.
And the next, I think it's the next evening, you can sort of see they meet Courtly in this abandoned church. And I was looking at it. I watched it today. It can't be a set. It cannot be a set. If it is a set, it's a very good set. I think it is an actual church.
Okay.
It looks really spooky. There's old crypts there, and there's the altar and the galleries and everything. It's just it looks weird. If it is a set, then hats off to the Hammer Horror production team, because or the set designers, because it looks great. And they walk in there, and then when we watched this, I think we sort of, I don't know about you. I mean, I was a bit younger. I was kind of horrified by it, but I was also there is a kind of comedic, unintentionally funny sort of aspect of it. There's candles, a light, so it's sort of set up to be a black mass as well. That's the important thing, isn't it? It's old abandoned church, and he's set up these candles. It all looks kind of eerie. It looks really good. And you've got candles and they bring these goblets, and he's got like a big sort of brass goblet or whatever. And I I think he says these this kind of incantation kind of thing, and then he pours the blood powder into each one of their goblets. Secker, Hargood, and Paxton, and then he cuts he cuts his own hand with a knife, and he squeezes his hand and he drops the blood into each one of their goblets and his own. And it kind of overflows. It sort of turns into the blood of Dracula again, doesn't it? It sort of bubbles up.
Yes.
It looks like sort of like passata, doesn't it? The blood in this film. It looks.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
But it's really good. And he sort of says, drink, drink it. And then they all look at it and they're like, oh, they have like looks of disgust on their faces. And then he points at Hargood. He's like, you drink. And he says, and then he sort of like goes up to drink and he's like, no, he just can't. He just sort of shakes his head in disgust. And then then Courtly says, you, what does he say? You spineless, pathetic fools. And then he takes a drink of it, and then he starts to he collapses and he's like, help me, and all this. Like he's going through something's happening that isn't good. and then like inexplicably, it is kind of inexplicably. I'd like to hear your views on this in a sec. They sort of start giving him a good kick. They kick him in, and they basically kick him to death in the church, don't they?
Oh, when does Peter Sellers say, I can't?
Oh, that's a bit later on.
All right, okay.
We'll
get there.
We'll get there. Don't worry. I know that's one of your favourite lines. And, but what did you think of that? Were you? I mean, it's when you watch the scene, it is pretty disturbing, even though it's like a sort of cheesy passata. But what did you think when we first watched it?
I don't have much memory of this film, to be honest. I think I do vaguely remember them kicking 7 shades of. Why are they doing that to him? And instead of trying to help him, they kick him to death, don't they?
Yeah, they kick him to death. I think you see Paxton's got his sort of walking stick out and he's battering him with that as well. And he's I guess they're scared. I don't know. It's kind of I don't know. Who knows? But they just kick him to death. Maybe they just kick because he's grabbing onto them. So maybe they just give him a kick just to get him away, and then they they realise he's dead, and then they give Scarpa, don't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, when I watched it, I think it's a long time ago when we watched it together, but I'm sure that we thought it was quite funny as well.
Yes. I don't think it was supposed to be funny, but we found it hilarious, and nonetheless.
Yeah, it's not meant to be fun. I will say that the whole black mass in an abandoned church and the whole it is quite kicking him to death is disturbing, but there's also a sort of unintentional funny part of it as well. That's what I'd say. They kick him to death, and then they go back and basically Hargood sort of takes the drink. He's like really disturbed what's happened, and he tells his wife and his daughter Alice, if anyone asks, I was in all evening, wasn't I? Yeah. So he creates an alibi for himself. He's scared, of pretty understandable. And then I think then we see Courtly's body in the abandoned church, and it undergoes some kind of transformation, and it turns into Dracula. And then he stands up, and it's Christopher Lee. So I guess it worked basically. The ritual black mass, whatever you want to call it, it worked, and it summed up Dracula. And Dracula took I don't actually. I guess who knows? I don't know. I don't think there's any scientific explanation. He uses the blood that's been created by by Courtly to live again. So he's there anyway. He's there standing in the church, and he says, "I've written this down. Actually, it's quite funny. They have destroyed my servants. Not my servant. They will be destroyed." And that's what Christopher Lee says. And then we go back to the Hargood residence, and Alice wants to go out to a party, and she sort of tells her dad, "Oh yeah, I'm going to this party." He says, "Why didn't you tell me about this before?" And she says, "Oh, you haven't been very approachable recently." He goes, "Is it my drinking? Is that it, Alice?" And he looks pretty pissed. He's a really good actor. And then he forbids it because she's going with Paul. That's another thing. He's got it in for Paul, who's Alice's love interest, and she doesn't know why. He never says it explicitly, but I guess it's because he knows what Paxton's like. He knows what Paul's father's like because he goes out whoring with him every weekend. And I guess he thinks it must run in the family. So he doesn't want it. He doesn't want his daughter to be with Paul. But Paul seems like he's not like his father. He seems like a decent young chap. So we can't understand why Hargood doesn't like him. Anyway, he goes out for a kind of. Sorry, Hargood goes out as a kind of. To meet up with Paxton and Secker in a kind of strategy meeting, to discuss the problem. They kick someone to death in an abandoned church, and Paul sort of goes by the window and he basically persuades Alice to sneak out and go to the party with him. So they have a sort of strategy meeting, and they say, "Oh well, no one saw us there. The body won't be discovered for a long time, probably. We've all got alibis now, so it looks like we've got away with it, And that's it. And then when Hargood comes back to the house, he catches Alice sneaking back into the house. She disobeyed him, and then he's got this. I think it's a riding crop, and he threatens and he says, "I'm going to whip you," and and he's going to punish her and whip her. And then there's a struggle, and she's because he's really pissed by this stage. He's really, I have to say, he's got a good. He plays a drunk really well. He sort of stumbles, and it looks convincing. He doesn't look over the top. It looks pretty good. Anyway, he stumbles. She throws him off. He stumbles to the floor, and she escapes out the window into the garden. And Dracula is waiting in the garden for Alice, and he looks at her, and then she sort of comes under his spell, and he's about to bite her neck, but then he's interrupted because Hargood's come into the garden. Alice, he screams her name, and then she's sort of now completely under his spell, and he's sort of saying, "Come here, I'm going to whip you," Hargood, and she kills him with a shovel. She smashes a shovel around the side of his head and kills him. And so he basically, Dracula sort of possesses her mind, and she kills her own father. That's it.
Yeah.
And then Dracula says, "Can you remember this?" He says, "The first." Can you remember that?
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah, briefly.
So this is the first. So that suggests he wants to kill all three of the. Well, he said he said as much. He said he's already said he wanted to do it anyway. Yeah. This is the first one I've killed, kind of thing. And so Alice goes missing under the influence of Dracula, and then she lures a character called Lucy. That's Paxton's daughter, Paul's sister. And she sort of says, "Come on, I want to show you something. I want you to meet someone." That's it. and she takes her to the abandoned church, and basically Dracula bites her neck, and then she becomes a vampire too. Well, the weird thing is, Alice hasn't become a vampire yet because he hasn't bitten her neck, but he bites Lucy's neck, and she becomes a vampire, and then obviously the next thing is a Hargood's funeral, and the camera. I had to mention this because it did make me laugh at the funeral, because the bloke, which I don't know if anyone in America knows who Peter Sallis is, but he does the voice of Wallace in Wallace and Gromit, doesn't he?
That's right. Yeah.
So he's got a really distinctive voice. He looks like a very sort of mild mannered man, doesn't he? He's kind of in this in this like a really gentle kind of man, but in this he's definitely the weak link in the circle, the group of men, isn't he?
Yeah.
And anyway, it's quite funny because there's Hargood's funeral, and we get like a nice close up of Paxton, and he's shitting himself.
Yeah.
And Paxton and Secker have like a crisis meeting. What are we going to do? Because Paxton thinks it must be Courtly, getting revenge. Somehow, maybe he wasn't dead or something. And then is your favourite line in the film, because Secker says, "Well, we'll have to go back to the church and see if Courtly is still there." And then Paxton goes, "But I can't."
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And then Secker says, "You can and will now."
Classic. Yeah.
It's like a classic, like English stiff upper lip kind of thing to say, isn't it? Pull yourself together. And they go to the abandoned church, and the body's gone. The body's missing. Oh, yeah. Another thing I noticed, there's like a sort of slow shot, panning across the inside of the church, the interior of the church, and we see a tomb, like a crypt, whatever, and it says Courtly on it, which I only noticed because I've seen it a few times, and this is the first time I've noticed that. So there's a tomb with Courtly's name on it as well, which is kind of sort of spooky, a nice little detail. So maybe it's one of Courtly's ancestors or something, Anyway, they're looking around, and they remove the top of this crypt. I can't remember what possesses them to do it. Maybe they're looking for Courtly. Maybe someone's hidden Courtly's body in one of these crypts. So they move across the crypt, and then it's quite scary because you see Lucy. You see Paxton's daughter there, with her eyes, seemingly dead or asleep, And Paxton says, "Oh my God, Lucy, is she dead?" And Secker says, "No, she's not dead. She's a vampire," because he sees the marks on her neck.
Yeah.
And he said, Secker says there is a way to release her so she can die. Otherwise, she'll go on living her nightmare existence forever, hunting animals and people for blood. And he says we have to drive a stake through her heart. And Paxton says, again, he says, I can't. That's his sort of catchphrase. I can't do it. So Secker says, "Okay, I'll do it. I'll have to do it then." And then he grabs a stake. He sort of puts it over Lucy's heart, and he's about to drive it in with a rock or something. And Paxton wings him with his revolver. He doesn't kill him, but he shoots him in the arm or something. And he says, "Get out of here, or I'll shoot you again." So obviously Secker runs out of the church, and Paxton sort of knows what he's got to do. So he slowly sort of positions the stake above Lucy's heart, and he's about to drive in, and then her eyes sort of flick open. That's quite a sort of jump scare sort of bit, it's quite scary. And then Dracula sort of, he's sort of standing there. He sort of arrives, and Lucy and Alice sort of corner him. He falls down quite pathetically. Actually, he's probably paralyzed by fear. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And then Alice holds Paxton down, and Lucy, his own daughter, drives us taken to his heart and kills him. And then that's the then Dracula says the second, and that's the second one done. Yeah. two down, one to go, kind of thing. It is kind of that is kind of repetitive and a bit lame, isn't it? The first, the second, it's kind of lame, but it's alright. Yeah. And then what happens? So I've got to consult my notes. So we're sort of reaching out. Secker is writing a letter in his study, and Paul, his son has become a vampire too, but we don't know it yet. His son comes into the study, and he says, "Oh, Jeremy, can you please give this letter to young Paul Paxton? Don't open it, just give it to him." And then he looks at him, and then he sort of brushes aside his collar, and he sees the marks on his neck, and he's like, "Oh no, not you too." And then Jeremy, there's all these names. Secker's son stabs him dead, and he looks up and he sees Dracula standing there, and he says the third, and then he's dead. So they're all three of the circle are dead. They've been Dracula has his revenge.
Yeah.
But then Paul gets hold of the letter. He finds the letter, and we hear like a voiceover of Secker explaining everything, how Lucy is under the spell of Dracula, and how she might not yet be. I think he says his sister in blood, so he might not yet. Have been. She might not have been bitten by him, so there's still hope, And you have to go. You hear that, and we see Paul making his way to the church, and there's a big sort of confrontation in the church, and I have to say, this is probably the weakest scene in the whole film, because at the end of it, Dracula is sort of like standing on the balcony, like lobbing objects down at Paul and Alice. He's lobbing stuff at them, and then the light is getting light. I think it's kind of lame. There's no real clever way he gets defeated, but the light goes through the stained glass window and it illuminates the cross, and he sort of leans back on it, and it seems to sort of burn his back. So he smashes the window, and then it projects light all over the whole church. And then he sees the church, and you can hear this sort of sermon going on, even though no one's there. It's just like the holiness of the place sort of stuns him, and kills him basically. He falls down on the altar and he dies.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the film pretty much. So it kind of, I like this film, but it has a lot of flaws. I think the third act is very weak, I have to say, because I think in previous Dracula films, there's been a sort of clever or half clever way that Dracula meets his demise. There's some kind of last minute trick that the hero does. With this, it's sort of, they couldn't work out a way to, either Dracula's very powerful, in which case he can't be up on a balcony throwing wood down at Paul. But if he's too weak, again the same thing's going to happen. There's no suspense. So I don't know. They didn't really find out a way to make it a big confrontation at the end. Really, so it kind of peters out. But overall, I mean, I'll ask you what you think of set. Overall, in my opinion, I think the set design in Hammer horror films is really good. That black mass, the black mass set. It looks really good. I'd say the first sort of 40 minutes, the first act is really good and quite chilling, and it's quite original. It's quite an original take on the Dracula series. Usually, it's like some travelers in Transylvania. They go into a weird pub where everyone just stops talking, and and then someone suggests staying the night in bloody that castle up there, Castle Dracula, or whatever. And it's all a bit formulaic, but at least this one it kind of tries to do something different, doesn't it? And the actors are very good, especially what was his name again? Jeffrey Keane, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Especially him. He's really good. But yeah, they're all pretty good. Peter Sallis is a good actor. Obviously, Chris, you can tell at this point, Christopher Lee was getting really pissed off with these films because there's hardly any dialogue, and he thought that he just thought, I'm a good actor, and all I do is stand there with bloodshot eyes, say about 20 words of dialogue in the whole film, and that's it. And he thought he was being underused, which is very fair because.
Yeah.
Have you seen the first Dracula film with Christopher Lee?
Yeah, probably, but it's a long time since I saw it.
Because the first one is actually based on the book.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of dialogue, and you can see like Christopher Lee is a very eloquent speaker, and he's a very good Dracula, and he's got plenty of dialogue, and he's got a real characterization, but. In most of the others, he's just a monster, isn't he? He's not really a character, so to speak. But overall, I like Taste of Blood Dracula a lot, and it's unintentionally funny in places. It's lame in some places, but it's also kind of well acted and kind of eerie and entertaining in most of the other places. So yeah, it's worth watching. So, what do you think of the film?
That one as well, isn't he?
I'm sorry.
Peter Cushing is in that one as Gabriel Van Helsing. So,
yeah. In the first one, yeah. And there's a character in the first one who played Alfred in one or two of the Batman films. With Val Kilmer. Alfred the Butler is in the first Hammer horror Dracula film as well.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, as a young man, yeah. But yeah, I'd say that was better than Taste of Blood.
Michael Goff.
Michael Goff. That's it, Michael Goff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, I'd say the first one was better than Taste of Blood. I think Taste of Blood is probably my second favorite. But they're quite good. They're always quite entertaining, I mean, what do you like about these films?
I remember, really enjoying them, enjoying being scared, but also having a good laugh at them as well, because they were unintentionally funny, and there are some funny lines, like some of the lines that we've mentioned, and and I just remember. Like you were saying, staying up on a Friday night and to watch these films, and I really love them.
Yeah, they're cozy. There's something cozy about the Hammer horror films. It's kind of like, like a rainy autumn day, going from work, have a nice cup of tea, and then it's maybe on a nice Friday night or something. Curl up and watch a Hammer horror. I mean, we watched loads. Can you remember there's a film I haven't watched since we watched it, when I was young, when we were young, was I, Monster. I'd like to see I, Monster again.
Yeah, I'd like to see that again as well.
Because that's basically it's like Hammer Horror's Jekyll and Hyde. Basically, that was pretty good. And there was the Fu Manchu films, which were quite good. And Yeah, there were loads. Yeah, there were loads of little. Doctor Terror's House of Horror as well, which is really good.
Yeah.
And I lost count of it because sometimes they weren't always Hammer horror. Sometimes they were just weird like other horror films. But yeah, we watched watched loads of them, didn't we? And they are entertaining. There's a really good spoof that Steve Coogan did. Did you ever watch Doctor Terrible's House of Horrible?
Yes, I think I remember. I don't remember much about it, but I remember watching that. Yeah.
That was a really good parody, wasn't it, of the Hammer horror films?
Yeah.
Some of the goofy kind of titles they had. One of the one of the Doctor Terrible House of Horrible episodes was called something called Terror of the Blood of the Lizard of Death.
All right.
or the Lizards of Doom or something like that. And there was another one where there was a character and it was set in Victorian London, and he was like a cross between, I guess, a cross between Van Helsing and Doctor Who. And but it was very, there was lots of and there was lots of Fu Manchu. Yeah, like the villain was basically a parody of Christopher Lee as Fu Manchu as well. And that was an excellent piece of comedy. And you can tell that Steve Coogan must love them.
Yeah.
I think parody is always done by people who like the thing they're parodying.
Yeah.
And you can tell that. So yeah, they're very good. I mean, there was. It's not just Hammer. If anyone's still listening to us, or will watch this later. There was an excellent documentary. I think it's still on YouTube. It hasn't been taken down, and it was called A History of Horror. I think it is with Mark Gatiss, who's in the League of Gentlemen.
Oh yeah.
And that was superb. And he talks a lot about the Hammer horrors and the home counties horrors they were called, because there was another company I can't remember, and they did stuff like the Pit and the Pendulum and lots of other horrors, and the Witchfinder General. I think we stayed up and watched Witchfinder General once as well, and that's very much in the same vein as the Hammer horrors.
Okay.
And that's a really excellent. I think it's a 3-part documentary, and one of them they talk about The Exorcist and The Omen and stuff like that, and Psycho, but there's also a long section on there on Hammer horror, and it's hard to persuade people to watch it. I mean, I think I roped in my girlfriend to watch Taste of Blood of Dracula once, but I think she wasn't impressed. But they're worth having a look at, because they're something different, aren't
they? Yeah, exactly.
And one thing you can say about the Hammer horrors, despite some films had dodgy scripts and dodgy effects, dodgy blood, the actors, for the most part, were brilliant. They always had. I mean, let's look at this. Is like a very kind of obscure, pretty much a B movie almost. Well, it is a B movie pretty much. Taste of Blood of Dracula, and it's got Christopher Lee, Jeffrey Keane, Peter Sallis. Those are 3 quite big name actors. They're very good. And that tells you that they always manage to get good actors in. I remember, I can't remember what website it was, but I looked up. There's like a long list of actors who had starred in Hammer horrors, and there's some really big names there. Like Oliver Reed was in a few Hammer horrors.
Was he?
Can you remember? I think we watched this one. There's one about zombies, like Terror of the Zombies or something like that.
I don't remember that one.
And he's in. There's one about a werewolf as well, and Oliver Reed is in that, definitely. But like, there's a long list of good actors that are sort of, when they were starting out.
It was almost a training ground for a lot of the great actors, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I can't remember. I remember one Hammer horror Dracula film. What is it called? It's something like Hammer horror. No, sorry. It's all like Dracula AD. So look, I'm just going to Google it quick, and this was really crap. I mean, I couldn't. That's it. Dracula AD 1972. So it's set in the 70s, and it was just it didn't have that kind of spooky Victorian vibe going on that the other ones had.
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes gave it 22%.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I remember this being really crap. I think this was the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of Christopher Lee doing these films. Because I think after this he said bollocks to that, because he's a real. I mean, Christopher Lee is such a good actor, and like in Frankenstein, he's like a monster. He doesn't say much. In most of the Dracula films, he says pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a terrible waste of his talent, really, because he's in a film I saw, a Hammer horror film actually, but it wasn't I Monster. It was another film called Jekyll and Hyde. It was another. I think they must have done 2 films based on Jekyll and Hyde, and he doesn't play Dr. Jekyll, but he plays Dr. Jekyll's friend or something like that in this one, and he's really good. And he's a very sort of erudite. He can play the villain. He can play a rogue. He can play a hero. So he's got a wide range, Christopher Lee, I think.
Yeah.
And he's sort of criminal. If you don't watch this, if you're just there to watch a Christopher Lee performance, because I suppose his facial expressions, he does look kind of scary, doesn't he? He looks menacing as Dracula, but yeah, he's not like he hardly says anything, doesn't
he? Yeah.
Yeah. So have you got any more thoughts on Taste the Blood of Dracula?
No, not really, because I don't remember that much about the film, to be honest. We only decided to do this today.
Yeah, this was.
I didn't get a chance to watch it.
Yeah, this is the last minute thing, because I had a bit of time in the afternoon, so I thought I'd give it a watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought we
whet my appetite to watch it again.
Yeah, it's worth watching. I might watch I Monster as well soon, because I just remember we watched it, and I remember us both thinking it was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't watched it since. So when was that? That was like 25 years ago. So yeah, I haven't watched it for a long time. So yeah, maybe we could discuss that in a future one. But I think it was just good because we haven't done this for a while, and we'll get round to Coogan's Bluff eventually, won't we? I'll find a way to watch it, and we'll talk about that.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thanks for for going through the trouble of watching the film, and making plenty of notes, and it's been good to take a trip down memory lane, and it certainly whet my appetite to watch this classic again, and I hope we've whet a few other people's appetites to maybe watch it for the first time. So yeah, if you've liked this video, then give us a thumbs up and let us know your thoughts on Taste the Blood of Dracula in the comments, and we'll see you next time. Okay, bye for now.